But Paul, what I see here, he lives in the present. The time of my departure is at hand. And I want to mention the word regret, because this was dropped into my spirit as I was putting this together. I noticed in the words of Paul that they do not express fear or regret. And many a person gets to their deathbed, and as they lie there, they begin to meditate. And they begin to think on what they have done and how they've lived their life. And often regret is found in them situations, in them moments. And there's no evidence here that Paul had regrets. That's a big statement. I come across an article written by a hospice nurse. And this is the 3 biggest regrets that she come across. The people wish they lived a fuller life. And she summed this up as unfulfilled dreams. The second one was they wish they hadn't worked so much. And she noted that all male patients had this regret. All men had this regret: we work too much. Be careful of that, men. Be careful of that, women. We're in the present. We're not in our deathbed. We still have an opportunity to change. That's the point of this. We still have an opportunity to make a difference. We can change the path in which we're on. And this is just observations what this nurse had. And then the third one, which I thought was interesting, was they wish they had stood up for what they really believed in. She goes on to say that in order to keep peace, many settled for a mediocre existence, never really becoming who they were truly capable of being. Isn't that something? That people got there and they realized, I just would have rather pleased people. I conformed. I just, whatever was accepted on the day, I accepted it. And I never really flourished to be the person that I knew I could have been in life. Again, a secular mind speaking. But there's a spiritual implication for this. Is it possible that we, the church, could choose to settle for a mediocre life? It's easier, but it's somewhat boring, and we somewhat know that we're not living the life that God has called us to live. The church is designed to turn cities upside down with the truth of the gospel. But often in a bid for peace, and most certainly acceptance in today's world, the church can settle for this mediocre life, where we're really there, but we're really not making much of an impact. We're sort of fitting in with people that don't really agree with us, but we're just living at a right pace that we're not offending anybody. And we'll be offended and we'll take it gracefully, but we'll not challenge. And this is what I see with this mediocre life. But there's so many churches have never become what they're capable of becoming, which is a church that can shake the city that is part of. And church, we are still becoming. We haven't peaked by any means, but I know we have a desire. Amen. There's a desire in this church. There's a fire in this church. There's a desire to reach people with the gospel. We're not happy with the mediocre, and I pray that the Lord continues to stir us in that way, that we don't settle for a mediocre existence as a church. There's an expectation from the world in the public square that we're the church, but the problem is, are we being stretched? Are we settled for a mediocre existence? Do you just live for the moment, church? Let us not do that. Let us not settle for a mediocre faith. Do you just kiss the door of heaven and ended up in hell? There's the danger of a life with no reflection, with no truth. The danger of complacency, becoming too comfortable in the presence of God. Complacency makes weak men, weak churches, weak testimonies. Judas was complacent. He gave up. He turned back to the world instead of turning to the Lord. He neglected his faith. He was being distracted by gold, silver. How often we, with the old glitter of silver, he lost sight. All he could see was a now. Never thought of where he is now, today. Paul, church, lived with eternity in mind. It was the promise of eternal crown that kept him going. Now, your race might be messy this morning. It might not be. But God encourages his church, messy or not, to live now with eternity in mind, to fight, to finish, and to keep the faith. Amen.